Firstly, massive congratulations, Dylan. My son woke up on the morning, and the first thing I showed him was your fights, your walkout, and to see his face light up. I mean, he's a little Nahang Singh. He wears his bana and his chakka when he
Yeah,
goes out anywhere, and to see a Kesari flag on TV, and to see you win, to say in your post-fight interview about Vaiguru, it just you can see his eyes light up, and it meant so much to him. So what you did not only was a great achievement for yourself personally, but for the community, it's really been a beacon of light and a beacon of hope in terms of what's possible. And
yeah,
and for my son, it's for the next generations. It's had a significant impact on them, more than I think anything else has in the sporting arena, to be honest.
yeah.
So thank you so much and
No,
congratulations.
thank you. Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate that. It's for me, it's really it's really lovely to hear and really great to hear because I never thought I would get this. Firstly, get this opportunity. Secondly, to have that reach. I never thought I would get there. To inspire the next generation is just like it means so much. Obviously, that's what we all want to do and what we all want to you know I didn't get into sport, just to do it and just for the sake of it. If I can inspire the next generation, that is so great for me. It means so much to me as well. And the fact that I get to do it and do what I love at the same time, it all means so much.
Yeah, and we had done a previous interview about your training transition into boxing,
Yeah,
and even people who listen to the podcast, they were messaging me and they're like, "That guy from your podcast won the boxer series." I was like, "Yeah, couldn't
yeah,
have happened to a nicer guy." So yeah, just
yeah.
really,
I
really
think when did we do? I think we'd done that first one was probably start of the year, wasn't it? Beginning
yeah,
of
it's
the
been
year.
some time.
Yeah, so it's been a few months. Obviously, back then I didn't know where my journey this year was going to take me, where my boxing was going to take me. And obviously, I had this opportunity as soon as I found out Sky Sports were coming to Coventry. I jumped all over it and said to my manager, "We've got to get on this show. We've got to get on it." Luckily, there was a slot in the tournament. We actually just wanted to go in for a 4-rounder, just as a slot filler. Just in between one of the fights, if they wanted to fit, put a fight in between the tournament. That was what our intention initially was. My manager came back and said, "Yeah, guys, you're in the tournament, so get ready."
Wow.
Luckily, my coach had done the research, found out a few of the guys, and we're confident from the get go, really. But it wasn't our intention to go into the tournament. But as soon as we got entered, it was our intention then to just win it and focus on getting the win. We was obviously always confident what we were going to achieve in boxing and the level that I could get to, but this just really just brought that out. The whole stepping stone of building the career and working my way up to the big TV shows has just gone out the window now. And we not hit the big time, but we hit the major shows now.
Absolutely, it's God's grace. Honestly, it's a incredible thing. But that leads me on to my next question, which you've partially already answered. How did this come about? You've talked about in terms of getting entered into the
Yeah,
competition. It reminds me of Jugraj Singh from Basics a bit, because when he was ill in hospital, we were having this conversation once, and he used to call himself the accidental pracharak. He was like I kind of just landed in this situation, and
yeah.
obviously he was prepared and he had done all the background, but it's you were ready, and God brought this opportunity into play, and
Yeah,
you
that's
you ran with it, and you
100%. That I believe in that fully. Obviously, for me, it was always, it was always a dream. I got into boxing I'm never chasing the money. I think we may have spoken about it before in the last podcast. I'm not chasing money. I'm not. We don't come on this. Some people have different goals, different aspects. My goal in boxing was to get onto the big nights and have those big TV, just to get onto Sky and just say like, "Oh, I was on Sky. Did you see me?" and stuff. And that was always a goal, and I managed to achieve that. And then I've never fought in my hometown, and I achieved that as well. And getting a win was just a massive dream and box ticked, and sort of just put me on that next opportunity. But you know, in the whole build up of the fight and all the way through, I wasn't fake. I wasn't. Some people sort of act a certain way, and how they are on camera and how they are in real life. there's two different people. I was just only being me, and I only ever being me as well. I've not hid or hide, shown a different persona to people. How you see me on camera is how you see me in real life. I just smile all the way through, and that's all that I did through the whole build up. And even on the media day, the weigh in, the press conference, I said all the way through I was going to win, but I said I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to do it with a smile on my face. And genuinely I did. The whole way through I was just doing it with a smile, because it was just, I knew what the platform was. I knew where, I was happy to be there. So, yeah.
I've never done what you've done, even on like a small scale, but talk me through what the preparation was like, going from, were you just training all throughout, or once the competition tournament date came through, did you think, okay, now I need to start preparing? It sounded like your coaches were already doing homework on the opponents, and so is that,
Yeah.
talk me through that.
Yeah, so I mean, I boxed in 17th or 18th of December, I think it was last year. So I essentially had 2 weeks off, 2-week holiday from the gym for Christmas. So that fell really well. So when January came, we actually started back into full training, get my fitness back up, and we started working on some techniques and stuff. So we were working towards a fight date in April the 29th. So we'd already started preparations for that date. This obviously came up 2 weeks earlier, so we jumped on that. So preparations were, everything sort of went from, where we were doing long duration pad work and continuous pad work, and, gearing myself towards one fight in the night. We had to literally just rip up the script. I found out on the Thursday, and on that Friday after, the following day, on the Friday, we literally changed our training regime. I came into gym and I sat down with my coaches, right, we're going to win this tournament. We've got 6 weeks from that Saturday.
Wow.
So on the Friday, we said, what do I need to do now? We put together a training schedule. We changed up how my running, the way I do my sprints, the way I do my pad sessions, the way sparring is. We changed everything through and through. One big thing people didn't realize, I used to do strength and conditioning with my team, one-to-one workouts, Mandip and Indy, every Saturday. We actually changed that. We actually had to take out the weights, and I got rid of weights for this training camp and just did everything was body weight exercises. So, everything down to a T, we had to adapt and change. Pad work was all geared towards 3 fights. So whether the other opponents and my other competitors did that, that's up to them. They can do what they want to do. But we were preparing for 3 fights in the one night, because that, obviously I've got to win every fight in the one night, but we need to be ready for it. So the whole way we trained was warm up. Our warm up was exactly the same. How I warmed up on the night to how I warm up in training. We did the same fight warm up. We then did 3 rounds of hard pads, and then it was with the minute break in between. And then I also used a stool and sat down on the stool as well.
Wow.
So literally everything was timed out down to a T. We then had a 25-minute break. And then again, it was 15 minutes. So it was 10-minute warm up and 5 minutes for what you would call ring entrances, announcements, that sort of thing. So 5 minutes of where you don't do anything. And then it was a first bell. So that was probably 35, 40 minutes. I then do another 3 rounds, essentially another fight, and have another break, same sort of time, and then have the final fight, and then make sure I cool down properly. So everything we've done was geared around the whole scene of the fight. When we did sparring sessions, sparring was done the same way. I was putting clothes on in between sparring, in the breaks in between the fights, in the pads or the spars. I was putting clothes on, I put a hoodie on, take my gloves off, take my head guard off, cool down, have a carb gel, have something to eat if I wanted something to eat. Everything we've done was geared around this whole tournament, because on the night I was so relaxed. You see me in the changing room. I haven't put no clips out, but I'm going to start putting clips out of behind the scenes in the changing room. I was calm all the way through, because we've done this 100 times already. We did this for a 6-week training camp. So everything we've done was geared towards sprints. It was all fast-paced sprints, up and down. Everything was in 3s and then a break. The difference was, and I remember it so clearly, that first Friday we did 2 fights. Essentially 2 fights. I remember the first fight was fine on the pads, and then the second fight after the break, oh my God, I could feel that lactic acid burning and building up, and that warming up and cooling down and going again. I felt that instantly, and I thought, bloody hell, this is going to be hard work. But your body does get used to it. It isn't good for your body, by the way. You know yourself, the whole warming up and cooling down, warming up, it actually that's where injuries come, and that's where injuries causes. But I needed to get myself used to it, and that's how we had to do it. So towards the end of the camp, I did start getting some injuries. My elbows were sore, my hand was starting to get sore, but it was it is what it is, and it's a one for me. It was a once in a lifetime opportunity as well. I don't know if I'm going to do this again. It's obviously, it helped me in my career because it brought me to the attention of Sky, and winning it's got me onto a platform that I wanted to get to. Had it not been for the tournament, I maybe not. Sky may not have even looked at me. Boxer may not have even looked at me. I might have had to have fight a big time. Go in as a massive underdog in a big title fight and take a big risk in order for them to see me. I've took a big risk in the tournament, but I had to do it in a different sort of way. So thankful of the whole opportunity through and through, but we prepared for it all the way through. So I was so relaxed, so calm. In the warm-up, in between the fights, I remember saying to my coach, Waller's his name. So Waller, how long have we got left? He goes, right, you got 15 minutes from now. Because Sky would come in and say, guys, you've got 10 minutes, 15 minutes, you got 7 minutes left. So like, right, okay. We practiced everything all the way through. So I didn't need to worry at all. I knew what I was going in for.
Was Waller the mastermind behind all of that?
Waller was the key one behind it. So I've got 3 coaches. I've got Waller, Richard Waller, Simon Akufo, and Uncle Baggy Singh. Call him Uncle because he's the one that's been there really. He was my first ever coach. So Uncle was there. So Waller was the one that timed out. So we found out from a manager how long roughly. When we found out on Thursday, when we had the draw, we then realised I was the first quarterfinal, and then I was going to be the first semi-final. So without stoppages, it was probably going to be about an hour and a half. So we sort of planned that into our routine already. We knew how long my warm-up was going to take. So the warm-up was about 10 to 15 minutes if I skipped or if I didn't skip. And I already knew what I needed to do in that first break. It was a long break. So my whole point was have a break, have a rest, recover, ice down my shoulder, get my massage. John, my masseuse, he was there on hand, my sports therapy. So he was touching and feeling and getting rid of any aches and pains that I had. And then it was all about keeping myself active. So we'd planned all of it already. But Waller's the one that he had it up here and what we needed.
Amazing. And you mentioned the first time you did it, and I can imagine like the first time you're doing a different format, it burned and it was very difficult. By the time you got to the end of the 6 weeks, towards the end of the training camp, and the actual fight, did you find there was a crossover? Because it's interesting from a physiological perspective. It's really interesting because lots of schools of thought around whether training needs to replicate the actual competition, if you know what I mean. So did you find that to be helpful?
Yeah, 100%. So, even going to the difference is that we couldn't prepare for the opponents that I had. All we needed to do was prepare for the entire range of different styles of fighters. And luckily, we did that. We knew what I was capable of and what my experiences in kickboxing, which did help me. They didn't understand what my experiences were in kickboxers had and how that developed me as a fighter as well. That showed on that Saturday. But we actually prepared for loads of different styles, and we actually had 3 fighters. We had one guy that came to take my head off, which is the first guy. We had the second guy who was a lot more of a better boxer, and we had the third guy who was just a brawler. So I managed to beat 3 different styles and beat them roughly-ish at their same sort of game. So I think I proved a lot as well. But yeah, it was, replicating. We try and do as much as we can in the gym to prepare ourselves mentally for the fight. So when it comes to fight, you deal with situations and you've already been through it. It was crazy because we actually planned our ring out walk. My coach Wally would turn around and say, right, okay, get out of the ring. This is your ring walk now. Walk in the ring. What are you going to do? You're going to bow to the corners. You're going to put your hands up, do all that. Come out, touch gloves, I touch the pads before we even start pads. The bell goes, round 1, touch your gloves. Final round, you go out and you touch gloves again, touch your gloves again. When I say everything, we planned and prepared for everything, because if we're professionals, that's the professional thing to do, right?
Absolutely. And with your training, with your guys that you've got, you mentioned like in several interviews, I've gone through YouTube and watched your interviews, that you've been with the same guy since you were 10 years old. So how did they get this much insight into boxing? Because you know your history as a kickboxer.
Yeah. So they actually they've actually taken guys professional already. So there's another boxer called Brad Foster. There's a guy called Kane Baker. They turned them guys pro and moved them in. So Kane came from the white collar background and moved them into professional boxing. Brad was a former kickboxer, amateur, and then when he turned 18, went into professional boxing. So they've already been through that already.
That makes sense.
And the difference with my coaches is that they are very experienced. You know, they've been around the circuit. They know fighting. You know, they know fighting because they're fighters themselves. So they know what my mindset is. My mindset's the same as theirs. We're going to win, no matter how. We're going to get the win. We're going to get the win. That's it. So I've got that same mindset. The difference is I've seen what they've gone through in training. Yeah, in kickboxing world, that's who I followed. I remember being in the gym and finishing class, and these guys would be sat there at the end of on the other side on the wall doing press ups and sit ups and stuff. Whatever they did on the bag, I copied as well. So they taught me everything. So you know, even from 13 years old, we used to go out and runs in Birmingham City Centre with them. And I remember some of the mad runs, they used to take us round and get lost or whatever and stuff like that. So they've really been there from day dot.
Amazing. So we've gone through kind of some of the pre-fight stuff. I really liked the video you put out about you going to the Gurdwara, like your pre-routine, because I think it takes a lot to kind of for you to put yourself out there like that. Like you could have just been mainstream and said, you know, just focused on the kind of mainstream stuff. But it's really nice that you showed your authentic self throughout. So I think that was very much
that like, you know, obviously I could have just put a generic picture up, or you know, just said it's fight day, thank you for the support, and just put a picture of me posing like this. But for me, I wanted to showcase what I do before a fight, and going to the Gurdwara is a routine. It is I go every single week anyway. You know, I go to the same Gurdwara every single week, whether that be a Saturday or a Sunday. I find the time to go, and I want people to know that. I want people to understand, because the hard work I do in the gym does reflect on the night, but I do need help from God as well. You know, that I'm very much, you know, obviously I do believe in God as well. You know, some people do, some people don't, and it's on their own opinion. But for me, God has a big impact on my life, and you know, I am where I am because of hard work, but because of God as well.
Amazing. So what was the rest of the pre-fight stuff? Because I know with UFC, because I follow that quite closely, that sometimes the weight cut is the hardest part, as opposed to the actual fight for some of these guys, because they're dropping so much weight, you know, like 20 kgs in some cases. And what was that like for you, that process?
Yeah, I mean the weight cut. So this is the first time that I weighed in at 9 stone, I think 10.5. So my plan is always going to be down to fight a lightweight now. So I'll probably end up fighting at 9 stone 9. Well, lightweight weight is 9 stone 9. They actually, because it was no title on the line, they gave us a £2 leeway. So I came in just under half a pound under, which is fine. Weight cut isn't an issue. Weight cut's never a problem. I do like to carry a bit of muscle. So coming into this camp, I was quite muscly and fell in love with my weights and stuff. So I got a bit of a telling off from my coach about that. But that's why I had to strip out and just go to bodyweight exercise. And I did learn stuff as well. And it still was beneficial doing that as well. Weight cut's never an issue. The hardest, I wouldn't say there was a hard thing really. It's probably the waiting around that you have to do on Saturday before the fight. Is probably the hardest thing, trying to just know that, you know, you're fighting soon, but you don't want to be too tireless, but you don't want to be overslept even, too, you know, have too much rest. You want to find that good balance in between. And then when you get there to the venue, it's just all about, by the time you get your hands wrapped and you start warming up, you're thinking, crap, it's actually time to go now. And it goes really quick.
That's amazing. So with your prep, like physically, you looked incredible, by the way.
Thank you.
Just you look like a professional, like
Yeah.
a men's health model. But with with the weights versus body weight, what's your thoughts on that? Do you feel like because weights is pretty much ubiquitous, right? All combat
Yeah.
athletes will do weights as part of their strength and conditioning and
Yeah.
injury prevention and all that kind of stuff. But do you feel like it will make you too big to meet weight and it's better to just stick with body weight, or does it impact on your boxing ability?
I mean, I think the main reason why, so in previously, I've always done weights. When I say do weights, I'm not lifting heavy weights. My strength and conditioning coaches, Mandy in India, are really good. So they understood that I didn't want to become big. All I wanted is endurance. So we were lifting smaller weights, but for higher reps. So we was all about the rep count and that repetition, just to build up that stamina and endurance in my muscles. So they were really good at putting a really good plan together, and it's worked really well. I've been with them for 4 years now, and I should know, 4 years now, and they've done really, really well and really shaped up and really helped my body as well. So next is, for the purpose of this camp, because it was so up and down, and I think having a lot of muscle and muscly, being muscle bound, was only going to attract more lactic acid. You're going to get tired out quicker. The fact that we're having to start and stop so often, having muscle, that lactic acid builds up and stays with you as well over that time. So I wanted to sort of shrink down a little bit, but still keep the power and the size, to a certain degree. So it wasn't necessarily about cutting out weight and that was it. It was done for a reason. I'm now looking at introducing the weight slightly again, and not necessarily putting on size, but building up that little bit of an endurance so that I can go the longer distances, which will be fine. Having that little bit more muscle is fine, going 10 or 8 rounds, for example. It was just for the fact of this tournament, we had to just strip it down slightly.
Yeah, and 6 weeks doesn't seem like that long as well to kind of dial into. I mean, you did a great job with it, and obviously it worked. But
Yeah.
Ideally, you would have had a little bit longer, right, to tweak things.
Yeah, I mean, the different. I think because I'd already started camp in January, I'd already got my weight down to a level that I was happy with. For me, it was I got my weight down, but I also started building a lot of muscle. So the first few weeks was while we was getting fit and getting stronger, getting used to the format. It was all about sort of reducing my muscle size slightly, getting rid of some of the muscle, because obviously, as everyone knows, what's the hardest thing to lose? It's not fat, it's muscle. So when it come down to weight cut, I needed, to be lean, but not to have loads of muscle as well. So obviously my fat content was I don't know what the percentage was, but it was quite low as well. So that was really the focus of cutting down the weights and moving to body weight for the purpose of this camp.
Nice.
But the 6 weeks was enough time. Yeah, it was ample time. It was enough time for me to. If I hadn't started training in January and I found out, argument's sake, it was a second week of Feb and I had 6 weeks to go, to get from where I knew I was at the start of January, and it took me, say, 6 weeks fit, and I already had 4 weeks of pre-training. Had I not had that 4 weeks, I probably would have struggled a lot more.
Yeah. So talk me through the fights now. Let's go chronologically. So if we start with the first fight.
Yeah. So obviously with Otis, it was we had a bit of, I call it a bit of beef. We had a few words. I think that just comes out naturally because he was a first competitor. There was a bit of, he was 1-0, I was 2-0. We both had a lot to prove and a lot of, we were both the underdogs essentially in the tournament. He was probably the favourite to win. I wasn't the favourite to win that particular fight. So I knew that for me, I sort of played a little bit of a game. I wanted to get under his skin because I wanted him to come out to try and scrap with me. I didn't have to go looking for him, and that's what he did. He came out and caught me with that right hand straight away. And to be honest, it did buzz me for just a split seconds. I was a little bit cold, but caught me anyway. And I then regained my composure straight away, got my hands up and took a couple of steps back and landed that beautiful right hand that dropped him. And then every shot I landed after that, it was having an impact. I could see him rocking. I could see him going. It was only a matter of time before I actually did stop him. And, you know, for what it was worth, I think I caught him with that right hand and he stumbled back and I was ready. I did jump forward to land a few. I landed a couple of
Yeah, I
shots.
think the ref jumped in
And
the way.
the reps jumped in and stopped it. And there were a few arguments say it was a bit early, but to be honest, it was only going. I was just going to start punching. I wasn't going to
Yeah.
stop punching.
I mean,
Until the ref jumped in, so.
didn't. His eyes looked fixed on something else when you caught him with the right. So that's where you potentially cause some serious damage to somebody, right? When you're hitting them when they're not copus in terms of
That's it. And then obviously having that quick win, it was, you know, you could see if you watch it closely, you could see I ran round and we had little bit of a celebration, ran back to the corner, gloves came on, t-shirt went on, and my coach looked at me, looked at any bruises, cuts, no, fine. And he said, right, get your breath back now. I want you to recover. That was straight away, the fight was done. It was all about recovery because I was already thinking about my semi-final fight. I didn't know who I was fighting because they were fighting after me, but it was already all about preparation for the next fight. So it was good that I got it done early, but we was already thinking about the next fight, which was crazy.
How did you feel about getting the stoppage?
I was happy. That was my first stoppage as a professional boxer. I already knew that I had carried power, and I think that really did show. And, you know, I can remember hitting him thinking every time I could hurt him. And I was just happy to get the win, to be honest, but I knew the job wasn't, that was the thing, like the job wasn't done. I'd already got the next fight. It was just a win to get to the next stage. It was a good feeling, but it was crazy because in my mind I'm thinking, I'm happy, but hang on. I've got to get myself back in the zone. So I was already half in and out.
And with the pressure, like you obviously had a community, like really just hoping that you won. You had so many fans there, such a big presence.
Yeah.
Did that pressure relieve at all after the first win, or was it just okay? Now we're just gonna keep going?
To be honest, I never felt any pressure. I'm going in the ring for me. I say for me, but I'm also doing it for you know the people that have come out to support me and the community that I'm a part of as well. But essentially, I'm in the ring and it's only me. So that was all I was focused. I couldn't hear the crowd. All I could hear was my coaches shouting at me, and that was it. I couldn't hear the crowd roaring. Couldn't hear nothing. I was so focused in the zone doing it. I know. I had that first ring walk. I had a smile on my face and put my hand up to it. Couldn't hear nothing. I was just doing that just because that's my routine and my ritual that I do before as I'm walking into ring. Got into ring and that was it. It was just focus, just zoned in.
Amazing. And I think pressure is not, again, looking at UFC as an example, there's a heavyweight called the Black Beast, and he was fighting in his hometown of Houston, and it was he had come out of jail sometime previously, and it marked the anniversary of his release from jail. So it was a championship fight, and he just crumbled, and he put it all down to the pressure. And I don't think it's healthy to put pressure on athletes. That I don't think that helps them.
And I think. No, it's not healthy, and I think people deal with pressure in different ways. So there was a lot of pressure on me because Sky were building me up as the hometown boy. I was starting to, I wanted to represent the Punjabi community and the Sikh community. So I wanted that to really show as well. So in all of that, you can say there's a lot of pressure, but I've been through that before. I've been through this before in other kickboxing fights where I was billed as another world champion, fighting another world champion. So I've been through all that before. I know how to deal and handle with pressure. The whole build up to it, walking out, big TV cameras, having the door players walking out. I'm used to all that already. I think that's again, it's a difference that, take out the fighting. That's, this is part of the game that we've got to get used to. And I'm already used to it.
Amazing.
So I already knew how to handle that pressure.
So let's go straight into the final now, because he was the favorite to win, right? He had 10 fights already.
Favorite. Yeah. So having watched back, obviously you don't know what they're saying commentary wise before, and on the night. You just find out afterwards when you watch. So when I watched it back, I think it was like a few days later. Obviously, all the commentators didn't have me the favourite. They were obviously commenting on my stance and the way I move and stuff. That it just wasn't a boxing style. But by the last fight, they were saying, "Yeah, we've got Cheema to win," which was really good to hear because I'd won them over.
Yeah, I think that's really rare for someone to go in and the commentators to be pretty much against the person, and then all of them said they thought you won the fight before the decision been announced. So you know, you really did win them over, and it's funny that because you know, one of them, I think the lady made the kickboxing comment, but I thought you were the better boxer out of the two in terms of like actual boxing. Like you know, your movement, your technique. It just seemed like he was, you know, trying to go for the knockout and just the whole time. But
that's all he was going for. So you know, I was already obviously because I was 7-1, I was already in the change room. My coaches went out to watch his fight, and they came back and said after the first round, they said he's lost the first round, and then obviously he went and won the second round and got the stoppage anyway. He had one game plan.
Style is
throughout the whole tournament. He had one dimension throughout the whole tournament, and that was to come forward and try and make it a brawl. I showed that I can punch. I showed that I can deal with a boxer in the second fight, and then obviously, so I already showed I had the minerals. I had different dimensions and levels to my game already. He just had one type, so we knew what he was going to do. He was just going to plow forward, try and punch the crap out of me, and try and stop me. They didn't realize I can move. I'm a good mover. I've always been a good mover, and I can punch, and I've got a good chin, and I've got the heart for it as well. They didn't realize that, and that showed on the first. You know, even though I was on the back foot, he landed a few, but he didn't actually land loads. I was landing a lot more cleaner shots.
Yeah, and inevitably he will land some, right? Like if you're gonna be offensive, you're gonna.
Look, at the end of the day, if I'm sitting on the ropes with my hands up, he is gonna land something.
Yeah. But it was beautiful for me to watch because it was like our guy is the technically superior. It was just boxing as a sport. It just really showcased the difference between a boxer and, you know, somebody you might meet who's got a good punch, right? It was beautiful to watch the movement, the footwork, the head movement, the counter attacking. It was all just, it was textbook and great.
All I remember, Harbir, was every time he landed a punch, every time I sat on the ropes was just fire back, just throw, just continue to throw because I knew his head was going to be there. As soon as he landed one punch, all I was trying to think was counter, and just if he landed one, I wanted to land 2 or 3 just to try and get the points back. And that was my mindset the whole way through. I was absolutely knackered going into the first, at the end of the first round, because it was a high-paced round as well. You know, I put a lot into it. He put a lot into it. I just thought I just couldn't stop. My coach actually came back. It was quite funny because I think after the second round, the first round he gave me some instructions and said, box, move. And then at the second round, when I did do that and I didn't do that, he came back and I remember sit down in the corner and he said, "You're not listening to me. Take a break, have a sip, just go out there and win the fight." And that's all I need to know, because I just thought, okay, fine, I'll just do what I need to do now to secure the win.
It's amazing. And now moving post fight, you've been really active. There's a social media page about you which I've been following. There's, you know, you're doing stuff. There's Nagakeetan, I think. There's also
in Coventry.
In GMP, I think you did a talk there. So you've been so active, and like what's kind of, how do you find time to fit this all in? Because you were so busy before, even without all of these people asking for your time. So how do you manage?
So I'm lucky that I've got you know, my best mate, essentially my brother, my younger brother. He's managing some of the time, and one of my coaches, Simon Akufo, he's managing time as well. So between them, they're sort of fitting it into my diary and sort of putting it in, obviously without putting too much strain onto me as well. You know, at the minute I can afford to sort of take the time out. I'm not training at them. I've got 2 weeks off from the gym, so I can afford to do the sort of appearances and go places and meet people and stuff. So as soon as I get back into training camp, then it might be a bit different, and those things, you know, I won't have the time as much. Training comes first at the end of the day. Well, work and training comes first for me. Everything else is sort of second to that.
Yeah.
So that's where you know, it'll sort of probably, yeah, people probably realize I ain't got enough time. But it's not for me being arrogant. I'm getting punched in the face. So I need to make sure I'm 100% ready to not get punched in the face. So
Yeah.
that's that. I think that's, but people do understand that as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
For
a
me, you know,
smart, isn't it? You got to put the time in.
yeah, that's it.
Um,
100%. And for me, it's all about, you know, I wanted to, you know, I got asked to go down to GMP in Coventry and see the Sikh camp down there. I was happy to do that. Certain stuff I'm more, you know, podcast for yourself. I've chosen yourself, you know, sit down with yourself because I value our time better than other things as well. So I'm putting the time where I want with people that I want to put time with as well.
Okay, so what's next? I'm not going to take up too much of your time. One more minute. What's next for you? Where can people follow you? How can they support your journey?
Yeah, yeah. So we're on all major social media outlets: Instagram, Dylan.Cheema, Twitter, Cheema Boxing. Get me on Facebook, Dylan Cheema. Hit me ad. I'll add and reply to every message that comes through. Just support the journey because I think we're in for a good ride now. Sky and Boxer are backing me big time now, which is really good. And all I'm going to do is promote our culture and showcase who we are on a different platform for people to see. So join the journey because I think it's going to be a fun ride now.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's really much appreciated.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. Cheers.